What if some people come together and decide they want to ban crypto?
It's not something that you will be able to ban. It has now gone into mass adoption. It's a mode in which future financial infrastructure is being built.
Warren Buffett, he's been very vocal about not favoring crypto.
Yes.
When you meet people like him, what worries them the most about crypto?
I don't think it's something that they worry about. I think it's something that they have not spent enough time and energy to understand. If you look at BlackRock, Mr. Larry Fink, CEO, for the longest time he was a sharp critic. And then the more he understands it, now he has turned into a keen supporter.
Isn't crypto essentially an alternative for the dollar?
I don't think it's going to be an alternative. Crypto is an asset class. In many instances, extremely useful and the best form of transfer of value globally.
You had $100 and you can only put in banks, governments or technology companies. Which one do you think will give you maximum return?
I would say that in the first instance, it's always about the technology. Then the government and the institutions will come into play.
If some builder is watching you right now who is probably in early 20s, what one specific thing they should look at to create wealth in the next 10, 20, 30 years?
I think it's important for them first understand the different landscape, do deep dives, focus on building things that will create value, that's sustainable, that has utility about it, there's strong use cases. Because these are things that people will continue to use, they create value for the world, for yourself. So those are the areas that they should focus on.
Is there any specific sector that you believe is going to see the disruption in the next 5, 10 years?
I really believe that.
If somebody is just waking up from a coma of 31 years and has no clue what's going on in the world, what would shock them the most about money today?
Well,
Co-CEO of Binance, the world's largest crypto exchange, he spent 31 years in traditional finance, starting at Singapore's central bank, then running Abu Dhabi's financial regulator before moving into crypto. And today, the biggest names on Wall Street, JP Morgan, BlackRock, Standard Chartered, are embracing the same crypto world he leads. In this episode, we'll discuss, can a digital wallet replace your bank account in the future? Will the future generations ever have a bank account? Is the US dollar really dying, or is that just a rumor? Banks lend out over 90% of your deposits. So is your money really safe in a bank? And if an AI trading agent loses your money, who is responsible for that? Watch this episode till the...
Before we start, I want to ask you if someone's watching you for the first time and they have no clue who you are, okay? And they're like this 1% audience who has never even Googled you. How would you explain them? Who are you? What do you do?
Well, currently I'm the co-CEO of Binance. Binance is the largest crypto ecosystem in the world. We are a financial super app. So beyond crypto, we offer our investors exposure, ability to take positions across a suite of products, right? It's not only crypto, it's commodities, it's petrochemicals, it's precious metals, it's US stocks, it's pre-IPO counters as well. And the product suite keep expanding. So we have more than 320 million customers globally and expanding very quickly. So we are part of the global financial infrastructure.
Right. But who is Richard?
Well, Richard is, I'm trained. I spent more than 2.5 decades in financial. By now, I've been in financial services for more than 30 years. I started my career with the Central Bank of Singapore. Then I was in Singapore Exchange and became CEO of Abu Dhabi Global Market, which is a financial services regulator. So my background historically has been in traditional finance, has been in regulations. I got to discover crypto right about 2017. And the more I deep dive into it, I realized that this is going to be the future of financial services, future of money, right?
Nice. So if, let's say you've spent like about 2.5 decades, which is 25, 26 years in finance.
Yes. No, by now I spent more than 31 years in finance.
Perfect.
Yeah,
So
finance.
it's 31 years now. So if somebody is just waking up from a coma of 31 years,
Yes.
okay?
Yes.
And has no clue what's going on in the world, right? What would shock them the most about money today?
Well, the concept of financial institutions and the concept of money are rapidly changing, right? So, I grew up in an era where it's a brick and mortar world, right? So if you want to set up a bank account, you have to go to a bank, you need your thumbprint on the passbook. There's no widespread ATM there. You need to do a withdrawal, you queue up in the branch, right? So the innovation has happened a bit slower throughout the past 2 decades, but it has happened to quite a fair bit of extent. But blockchain technology, crypto, has the ability to transform all that. So if you rethink from now on the future of financial services, and given today's tools, architecture, infrastructure, and I say build a new bank, build a new securities firm, build a new asset manager, you'll not be the model that you see in the past, right? It will be something that's totally different because with the usage of blockchain and AI, the future of how a bank provider, a payment provider, an exchange look like will be totally different. So many things can be fundamentally changed, right? We are living in a very legacy system that has plenty of challenges. If you do a bank transfer today, cross-border, it takes 2 to 3 days. It takes huge costs, right? So if you look at, for example, India has more than 100 billion of remittance, right, in any given year. And if you look at the fees that the bank charge, 6 to 7%. So you're taking off $6 to $7 billion that, that can be substantially saved and given to your loved ones, to your families, to the vendors that you need to pay. But if you do that via stablecoin and crypto, right, those money can go to your loved ones, your vendors. The money can reach the end recipient in an instantaneous basis. Payments can be done. There's certainty of how much capital a corporate...
As our Prime Minister asking for transfer from banks, and one unfortunate individual has been scammed to transfer $4.9 million if you look at the press article, right? So scams, fraudsters exist in any situation, right? Especially the advent of technology such as AI, right? People have to be very, very cautious, right? So there are areas that we need to continue to invest in, both in the traditional financial institutions to provide enough guardrails, right? But for our users, for the global users, whether they're users of financial institution or crypto, they have to do a lot of understanding, research. Don't trust all these things coming through, right? Have an independent mind. Don't just trust. I mean, normally the scammers play up to emotions to say that, if you don't do this, there's either a risk, right? You have to give me access, otherwise your account will be, accessed by other people, etc. So I'm trying to secure or opportunity. It's too good to miss, right? I'm going to offer you how many percent return, etc. So whatever it is, you have to be prudent and be cautious in whatever format that's coming through. So it's not limited, right? Unlike what you say in crypto, it happens all the time in financial institutions. So I think that's one. But as a responsible entity, we have built in so many guardrails, right? And we are utilizing this technology in many senses that financial institutions are not utilizing. So, for example, on the cybersecurity side, we have invested very heavily. We have invested, today we have more than 100 AI models just doing anti-fraud scanning. And last year alone, we helped our users avoided close to 7 billion in terms of potential scams, right? More than 5.4 million users, close to 7 billion in potential scams. Because using all this new technology, we have the ability to detect that. And when our users want to transfer funds, we want them to, are you sure about this? Who are you trying to... So those are things that as a responsible entity we do.
On this point, I have a rather philosophical question to follow up, right? If you look at money, in the entire human time, in the last 5,000 years of our history, we always needed someone who we trusted, right? Some kind of king, some kind of temple, or a bank, or a government, or something in the middle there where we trusted, right? Crypto, for the first time, is where we all are coming together and we are like, we don't trust someone, we trust math. We trust some code or some math formula, right? So are we moving away from trusting an individual and outsourcing our, outsourcing betrayal to a form of math or a form of code?
No, so what you say is not true. So in the very early days with barter trade, right, the transfer of value is different, right? And if you remember, if I bring you back 16 years, how Bitcoin Manifesto came about was really loss of faith not of the central authority, but of the centralized platforms, the Lehman Brothers collapse, etc., financial institutions not being to manage the risks. You can see those collapse coming through. And people feel disenfranchised. When something collapses, they can't do what they need to do via proper transactions, right? The system froze. You have a central party in that. So that's how Bitcoin was then said, look, this is a better alternative way of payment where you disintermediate from a center middleman. That there's a lot of vagueness and it's opaque. We do not know what is in there. We don't know how they're regulated.
the central bank say they're properly regulated, then how can they fail, right? So to say. So it's slightly different, and that then take root among a group of very early adopters, early believers to say this is way superior. Instead of letting a middleman take 6, 7, 10% of my transfer, why shouldn't I do this using technology, which is far superior? And today it has transformed, right? So if you look at stablecoin, it's one of the most important use cases of that technology. But even the banks are embracing it now. So if you look at global banks like Standard Chartered, HSBC, they say that, we're going to issue stablecoins. They've gotten licenses in jurisdiction, including in Hong Kong, to do that. So this technology is proving itself to be important and relevant and changing how future remittance, how future payment, how the future of financial services will look like.
Aren't you as Binance is becoming the middleman?
So we are
Like the
centralized
concept you were
fund.
against, you guys are becoming the same concept.
No, so that's different. So the banks operate on a fractionalized reserve basis, right? So for every $100 that they get, they keep 5%, 8% in terms of regulatory reserve. They then lend out the rest of that money, right? So it's about risk management. For us, it's different. Customers' money, 100%. And because we have this technology, we introduce proof of reserve, so that customers can at any point in time check on the chain, check the address that the money, the assets are there, right? So at any point in time, we hold north of 140 billion of customer assets, but those assets are properly safeguarded. And we became the first global exchange to have a home regulator, right? So other than 20 over countries that we are regulated in, we are the only one with a home regulator that regulates us on an end-to-end basis. So not just about AML, transaction monitoring, how we do our know your customer, know your business, how we do enforcement, listings, our global liquidity is regulated, but also areas of how we custodize, how we safeguard money, when we do our proof of reserve, which give transparency to our customers that your money is held safe, where you can verify all this. The financial institutions, traditional financial institutions, are not able to do that for customers. So it's a totally different concept.
If you were 18 today, would you open a bank account?
Well, it really depends. It depends on whether I'm technologically savvy, right? So if I'm 18 and not technologically savvy, and depending on whether there are banks in my country, if you look at, I've been in financial services for more than 30 years. Since day one, central bankers, financial institutions around the world say that we have to bring about greater financial inclusion. But as of today, you have 1.4 billion people around the world with no access to proper payment system, with no access to proper banking system, because financial institutions are making it too expensive, right? They don't want to serve this group of people. So what's the alternative? What's the option? It is crypto. It is blockchain technology, it is Bitcoin, right? So I go around the world to many parts of the frontier market, global south, emerging markets, where people come out and thank me, right? And thank Binance, because their life has improved tremendously once they got to know, firstly, crypto, secondly, Binance, using it as a platform for store of wealth, for transfer of value, etc. Because they get access to things that they couldn't get access before, right? So those are extremely important. So I would say that if I'm 18, definitely, I believe I'll be savvy enough. Hopefully, and I would definitely embrace this, because I will give you a situation. The future world, if you think about it, you don't necessarily need a bank account, but you definitely need a wallet. So the wallet infrastructure is very, very important, right? So through your wallet, you get payments from your employers. It could be in the form of stable coins coming in on a monthly basis. From there, using a combination of AI and blockchain, you can pay your normal bills, right? Whatever bills that you need to pay. You can then do, using that diversification, right? You can have a balanced portfolio. I'm going to invest in equities, commodities, credit. Part of it will go to earn product and savings. Everything can be managed out from that wallet, right? So the concept of a banking institution to the future generation, I believe will look very different as we continue to evolve, because through a mobile, through a wallet, you can do everything literally. So do you still need to go to a bank to set up a bank? No. What you need to is a wallet. So, which is why it's very important to think forward and rethink the future of the world and what's coming, right? So, if you look at, we continue to invest very heavily into our Web3 wallet on that front. Today, our market share stands at north of 80%. So, we believe that all this technology and infrastructure, these are infrastructural layer that are extremely important for the future world.
So you believe that the wallet infrastructure will become more important than the bank infrastructure?
Absolutely.
At some point?
Absolutely.
Do you think our kids will talk about bank accounts the way we talk about fax machines? Like,
I
they
don't know,
forget.
but my kids doesn't quite talk about bank account anymore.
Yours should not.
So, but different economy have different setup, right? And different economy evolve and innovate at different pace. So it really depends. But I would say that the more the evolution goes, the more prevalent and important all this new technology, all this new way of working. Because today, once I give you a much better alternative, you will not go back to the past alternative. You will demand the future alternative. Why am I paying 6 to 7% if I can do 0.1%? Why am I not allowed to take positions when there's 24/7 trading, right? Why do I have to wait for 2 to 3 days if I can do transfer on an instantaneous basis? It's not only the retail is asking that, the corporates are doing that. So you look at all the very big corporate treasuries, they are moving to say, look, I need to, on a daily basis, I need to transfer hundreds of millions of funds from Australia to Europe to US to different parts of Asia. I need to allocate that. Isn't it better to make use of stablecoin or crypto technology to do that transfer? So that I hold less capital. My capital is put to better use, is much greater efficiency. I save a lot of cost for the organization. And I have certainty for myself, all my subsidiaries, all my vendors, when are they going to receive the payment. That brings about greater capital velocity. That's a better alternative. And once they do that, they will not go back to the existing state of play, right?
True. You said it depends on different economies how the manifestation will
Look at. So I would say in the first instance is always the technology. The technology is the most important part. You have to show what is the future state, what is the use case, what's the utility, right? How do you bring about the development? How is it a technology that can bring about betterment for the people, right? So those are extremely important. Then the government and the institutions will come into play.
Warren Buffett, right? And he's been very vocal about not favoring crypto.
Yes.
Right? Charlie Munger and him, they both have said it multiple times in multiple occasions.
Yes.
Right? So when you meet people like him or people who believe in that kind of philosophy, what worries them the most about crypto and this new asset class?
I don't think it's something that they worry about. I think it's something that for the skeptics is something that they have not spent enough time, energy to investigate and to understand, right? So for the longest time, some of the largest money manager in the world, some of the largest financial institutions are skeptics and critics, right? So if you look at BlackRock, Mr. Larry Finn, CEO, for the longest time, he was a sharp critic of crypto. And then the more he understands it, now he has turned into a keen supporter. Jamie Dimon, one of the sharpest critics for the longest time, for 7 years has been coming out to say negative things about crypto. He has changed his stance, right? The more he understands it and what this technology represents and how it can transform financial landscape. Now JP Morgan is trying to work with, for example, DBS on tokenized deposits, which is an important use case for cryptography, for blockchain as well, right? So they are starting to embrace it in a very, very big way. So it's about that awareness, about understanding, it's about deep dive and knowing the technology and what it can bring and how it can shape the future world.
Do you think one of the reasons for a lot of these people to change their stance is about dollar devalue?
Well,
like everybody keeps saying that dollar is dying.
There are many people that may subscribe to that view. I actually don't, right?
You don't?
I don't. And I can explain to you why, right? I think there are countries that want to move away from dollar denominants. I think that's a fact. And that fact has been in existence for a long period of time, right? But for that to come true, you need several elements to come into play, right? So today, if you look at globally, which is not only a reserve currency, but a safe haven currency, essentially that's just US dollars, right? So why are we in this current state? Because the US dollars is used as a denomination for majority of all the trade flows, right? So global trade flows is denominated. You have a world and infrastructure under the existing system, pretty much controlled by the US financial system, right? If you look at just US equities alone, it accounts for close to 60-70% of the equity value of the world, right? If you want to do a fundraising, right, at high valuation for a tech company, where do you go to? The US market, right? So again, because of all that different parts of the ecosystem Are you able to move quickly? No. Would all the different countries want to come out with their own solutions? Definitely, right? So for example, CBDCs is what the countries wanted to do to also try to de-risk from US currency. But that will take some time, right? And whether those experiments are going to be used is going to be transformational. It really depends on what is being embarked in those experimentations.
True, but then isn't crypto essentially an alternative for the dollar?
Well, I
Say
don't,
crypto, but let's say Bitcoin.
I don't think it's going to be an alternative. I mean, if you look at most of the stablecoins today, it's still denominated in US dollars, right? So crypto is an asset class, right? It is, in many instances, extremely useful and the best form of transfer of value, right? Globally, right? But the transfer of value has to be denominated in something. So I don't see crypto as that. And the crypto usage goes way more beyond just a mode of transfer of that. It's a store of value used in most instances. It's a mode of payment. It's a mode in which future financial infrastructure is being built. Is a mode that really facilitate 24/7 settlement, real asset tokenization, and many. And the use case are being developed as we speak. In the DeFi space, there are so many new different projects. So in the payment space, again, in the RW space, that has grown by 25 times in the last year alone. The script is just being written at this point in time. There are so many strong use cases coming through. So it's just not one dimensional.
To support both sides. In Binance, I hope I continue to do the same as an enabler, as a builder, working with a fantastic team, right? So I've the founders, co-CEO E, working alongside. We have many brilliant people. And we continue to believe that we need to continue that mission of Binance, which is the freedom money, build the best platform out there into a financial super app to serve our users in terms of all their financial services needs. And that's where we are heading towards. See, so if some builder is watching you right now, who is probably in early 20s, want to build his career or her career, right? The money is changing, world is changing, AI and technology is changing, geopolitics is changing, so many changes happening in the world. What should they focus on, or which industry perhaps, or what one specific thing they should look at to create wealth in next 10, 20, 30 years? I would say that the technology will always come through, right? So there will always be new technology coming through. The sectors will always evolve. The opportunities will always evolve. So I think it's important for them first to understand, spend as much time possible, understand the different landscape, do deep dives. But it's also understanding, if they are a builder, focus on building things that will create value. It's very important, right? So if you focus on building things that will create value, that's sustainable, that has utility about it, there's strong use cases, you won't go too far wrong, right? Because these are things that people will continue to use. They create value for the world, for yourself. So those are the areas that they should focus on. Continue to look at ways to create new value or enhance existing value. Is there any specific sector that you believe is going to see the disruption in next 5-10 years? I would say that where there's not a lot of work has done, so somebody can maybe look at. I really believe that every economic sector in the world will be transformed using AI and crypto. Entertainment, right? Payments in entertainment, for example, you'll be totally transformed. Supply chain financing will be totally transformed using AI and crypto. Financial services, I think we have touched on. But if you look at even different type of sectors, right? There are so many sectors with so many opportunities that's ripe for transformation, right? So if you inject the right lens, if you have the right expertise, and you use the right technology, you can create a lot of new value in each of these economic sector. Got it. Well, thank you so much. Here's one last thing I've started asking my guests these days, I'd really like to ask is, what is one advice that nobody should follow? Hey, I have this great investment that can generate huge returns for you. So don't trust those. Do your own research. It's extremely important. Just don't trust. Just don't trust what other people tell you without understanding, without researching, without analyzing. It's going to be challenging. Right? So importantly, do your own research. Very important that you are the master of your own money and your own knowledge. So invest time in all those things. All right. Thank you so much. That's a great one. Thank you so much. Thank you.